Hi, this is Devabrata once again, and today I'm planning to cover temporary tables. So temporary tables would be the easier one after doing lots of complicated topics, something tough, logical topics. So after that, obviously, this temporary table would be the easier one. Even if I say SQL as a whole is a easier topic, because if you compare that with some other languages like Python or some new technologies even, so you do not need to spend the full days in your office or in your college days. You do not need to spend the full day over SQL. It takes a minimum time, believe me. I'm not promoting SQL and I'm not telling the lie. I didn't have any wish to work on SQL when I started working. My first choice was to work with Java, but it was randomly assigned to me. But yeah, what I found after working with SQL over a decade, so what I found, like, yes, it is the easier one, and focus on your life and hobbies. Do not spend much time on SQL. So today even it will not take much time if I directly jump into the topic. So first topic would be local temp tables and global temp tables. But before jumping into local temp tables and global temp tables, first I need to explore what is what is temporary tables and what is the difference between the temporary tables and the tables we have already used. So if I go to the SQL Server, just let me remember how I created some of the tables earlier. So suppose, if you can remember, suppose if I want to create some table for, suppose, movie. So I am trying to create a table for movie named movie 1. So I can give some MID as integer and something called m name, the movie name, as varchar. I'm not trying to insert anything. It is just, I'm just creating a table. If you check, the table is created. This is the old traditional table. We are doing it for a long time. We have created a list of tables already earlier. So it is very easy. If I check, you can see the table name and the columns. It is taking some time in my machine. You can see it is movie ID and movie name. It is showing. If I insert few datas now, obviously you will be able to see the data. So now it is the traditional table and it is being termed as permanent table. I can name it as a permanent table. So it always stays in the database. If I go to the BW database, if I go to table, you will be able to find that table somewhere here. Yeah, you can see movie 1 has been created here. So now what is temporary table? So if I create a temporary table for the very first time, the syntaxes would be the same. Let me copy the whole thing. So now if I create, I just need to put a hash in front of that. So let me name it as movie 2. And whenever you are giving hash, it is named as temporary table. So hash means temporary tables. That's all. You can see I'm not changing anything else. I have just put a hash in front of the name. Okay. So let me execute that. Yeah, it is executed. So it is created. It is showing. So now if I put hash, if I execute, you can see the table name and the structure. But this table is not available here in the table list. If I refresh, let me check, you cannot see anything called movie 2. And that is why it is being called as temporary tables. Even in the next week, if I open, you can see the permanent tables, all the permanent tables. These tables were created a long before. The student tables, we have worked on lots of things on the student table. So those tables are being created long ago. It still, you can see those tables in the list, but you cannot see movie 2 because it is temporary tables. And that is the main difference between temporary and the permanent tables. So how long these temporary tables will last? So that is a common question, means how long. So the scope of temporary tables, if I write it somewhere, temporary tables. So the scope, so temporary tables, the summary is starts with hash. And if I write the scope is only the current query window. What does it mean? So if I go to some other query window on the same database, if I write select star from movie 2, you can see it is saying invalid object name. It is not fetching the table details. Here, if I run again, it is saying MID and M name, movie ID and movie name. But if I go to some other window, if I try to execute, it is showing invalid object name. So the scope or the limitation of the temporary table is the current query window. But if you check the definition in good words, it is being termed as a session. So until this session, it is available. If you go to some other session, if you go to some other run, or if you go to some other query window, you will not be able to see the temporary tables created in the database. Okay, so that is the thing. So now let me do some experiment. Otherwise, believe me, everything is same. Otherwise, everything is same like a permanent table. So why it is being used? So suppose if I have given you some requirements, obviously at the end of the class, I will be showing you a few examples where we can use the temporary tables and where it is useful to use the temporary tables. But if suppose in a project, 500 people works, suppose, and everyone has their own requirement. And now if everyone starts creating their own permanent table, then this database will be polluted. There will be more unnecessary tables, probably used one time or two times, but someone created it permanently. So to solve a temporary requirement, it is not suggested to create a permanent table, which will always be there in the database. So to fulfill a requirement, suppose after publishing one exam, suppose you are working in a newspaper and you need to publish the topper's name, state-wise or gender-wise topper name on the next day in the newspaper. So it is not required to place a permanent table always in the database. To fulfill that requirement, it is always suggested to create some temporary tables, use that, and after that it will be automatically vanished. Okay, so that's the thing. So now you must be thinking why a temporary table is required to fetch that gender-wise topper and all. So I'll be discussing that later. I'll be giving some examples, but first, let us explore the working principle of the temporary tables. What else we can do with these temporary tables? If I create something like with double hash, and let me create that. And now let me, okay, sorry, I have created the same with the same name. You might be confused in that case. Let me drop it. Just a minute, let me drop it. Let me create with, you can create it with the same name because hash is creating the difference. You can see the hash is creating the difference here. So, sorry. Now, if I write something called movie 3, say, because you can easily differentiate between single hash and double hash. So you can use the same name, but my intention is something else. So if I create a table called movie 3 with double hash, okay, it is being created. Now, if I have changed, I'm not changing anything except the name. Everything else is same. You can see in the same way I have created the permanent table, in the same way I have created a temporary table. Now I am using the double hash. So if I execute, obviously I can see the table exist here. It is fetching MID and name. We do not have any data in the table. That's why it is not able to fetch the data, but it is fetching the structure. But now if I execute this table in the other query window, you can see I am able to see the structure. But in case of movie 2, with a single hash in front, it is not able to find the table name. So what happens with double hash? So in general, double hash is being termed as a global temporary table. So we have two types of temporary table. So this is being termed as local temporary table. So how you can understand what is local and what is global? It is very simple, and it is common interview question as well. So local temporary table means it starts with hash, and global temporary table means it starts with double hash. So that is one of the differences. And the second difference is it is based on the connection. Okay, connection means until this connection is up, you can see this movie 3 from anywhere. You can see if you go anywhere, you can see this movie 3. But if I want to check movie 2, you will not be able to fetch that. If let me show you, movie 2 is limited to only this query window. Okay, and movie 3, you can see it from anywhere. Okay, but if you disconnect, okay, let me copy this query. So if I disconnect, let me close this SQL Server. Now, if I open it once again, so now if I disconnect and connect again, so it will not be available. Global temporary table will be vanished. It will be destroyed automatically. So let it be opened. Let me connect to the server. If I go to new query and let me check if it still exists or not. Let me go to the BW database where I have created that. It was previously available. So if I execute, you can see it is showing movie 3 doesn't exist, invalid object. So that means until the connection is up, global temporary table, you can see. When connection is down or you just close the connection, it is destroyed. Okay, so this is the difference between local and global temporary table, and it is quite commonly asked during the interview. So you have to understand that. So now, where actually this temporary table stored? So I couldn't find those in our database. You can see. Okay, let me create these two once again, movie 2 and movie 3. So let me create those two once again. Movie 1 is still available, but movie 2 and movie 3, I couldn't find them. If I go to table list, okay, just it is taking some time because my machine is really slow like me. So it might take some time, but here you can see movie 2 and movie 3 is created once again. So where exactly they are stored? They are not stored inside any particular database. In our case, it is not stored in BW database. So we have something called system databases. By default, when we started, when we installed SQL Server, it started with system databases. So system database, we have 4 type of databases there. So you can see even if I maximize it, you can see master, model, MSDB, and TempDB. So our temporary tables are being stored in this TempDB. Okay, I will explain in some other classes what is the functionality of master, model, and MSDB. But for the time being, if I open this TempDB and if you go to the temporary table list, you will be able to find this movie 2 and movie 3 are being stored here. It will take some time. My machine is really becoming slow. So yeah, now you can see movie 2 and movie 3 here in the list. Okay, you can see both the tables. So now even in BW database, you can see movie 1 is being stored here. You can see it because it is a normal table. It is a normal table. It is created in normal way. But movie 2 and movie 3 is being stored here. I'm trying to show you all the aspects of using a temporary tables. So even you can find a weird thing. Movie 3 name is quite good, but what about movie 2? It is available with a weird name. In our case, it is simply movie 2. But why it is being stored with that weird name? So we need to explore that as well. So let me check if the movie 2 name is working fine or not. If I check, yep, okay, no, sorry, what happened? Movie, why? Okay, sorry, it is not double hash, it is single hash. So if I check, movie 2 should be available here. Yes, movie 2 is available here, but here, why it is showing some bad name like this? It is because of just use your common sense. Do not remember anything. SQL means zero memory. You do not need to remember any hard thing. You do not need to memorize all those definitions. If you are really able to understand the concept, it is very much easy, believe me. So let me explain why it is showing this kind of weird name. If I go to another query window and if I try to create that movie 2 once again, it must be created because if I check movie 2 here, what I have explained just few minutes back, movie 2 should not be available here because the scope of temporary table only limited to this query window. I have already written that somewhere. Yeah, you can see only limited to query window. So that means if I go to another query window and if I try to see the temporary tables, it will not be available there. In contradictory, if you can think, even I can create another temporary table here. That means If I create, it is created. I can create temporary tables in 2 different query windows with the same name. So if I refresh the thing now, you can see another temporary tables is being created and with some other extension. So for us, whoever is using movie 2 from this window, actually these are termed as this. Whoever is using movie 2 from this window, the term will be like this. So there is no way to identify that probably. So in database, they have given some name, unique names, but for us, whoever is working with this in this window, they will never going to understand that, okay, there is another movie 2 is being created from other window. And that is why some unique name has been given, and you can see that weird name. And for movie 3, as it is a global temporary tables and it can be accessible from anywhere, so obviously there will be one global temporary table always. Okay, so you cannot create another one here because it exists in all the query windows. It is up until the connection is up. Okay, so that's why we can have one global temporary table at a moment, but we can have multiple local temporary table with the same name created on the different query windows. So that's why you can see these weird names. So that is the difference between local and global temporary tables as well. So if we go further, let me close this. Yeah. So if we go further on the next slide. Okay, so now we know local temp tables and global temp tables. The definition wise, it is very easy. So now if I go to the next slide, and here we'll be checking the behavior of the local or global temporary tables. Together we will call it as a temporary tables. The behavior of our temporary tables is similar like a permanent table. So first of all, I want to show you something. Like if you can remember, we can create a permanent table in this way using into command. That means select star from, suppose, let me check the data. So suppose we have a table called student. I want to put some conditions like where it should be the students should be from Florida, from either of Delhi or from West Bengal. And let me choose some of the data like role, yes, name, age only, let it be. And if I run this query, okay, this is giving a good kind of data. So now if I want to store it some table, so I can store it, I can use into command. We have probably learned that in our 3rd class, but if you are new, so you can also play with that. We can create a table called what the name I can give of this table. So let me check. Yeah, I can give a name like TBL table 1, kind of that. If you place a into command before from, this table really created in the database. If I go to the table list, if I refresh, you will be able to see somewhere here. Yeah, table 1 is being created in the database. So now you can see select star from table 1 and you can see the data, and it is a permanent table. So whatever we can do with the permanent tables, we can do the same with the temporary tables as well. What does it mean? I can do the same for a temporary table as well. Just put a hash and write something table 2. And if I run, so it is nothing new. Don't be confused. Don't listen to others. It is same like a normal table. Okay. Just the difference is it is not permanent. That's all. So if I run, obviously data will be there. Okay. And where it is being created, it is obviously being created in the temporary table list. If I refresh, you can see it here, table 2. Okay. So same we can do for global table as well. I'm not going to show that. So now, okay, let me go to the slide. So, okay, it is saying you can drop, obviously, let me drop some table 1, drop table 1, say, drop table 1. If I run this query, yeah, table 1 has been dropped. If I drop table 2, in the same way, I can drop a hash table as well. If you do not drop, it will be automatically dropped when you change the connection or you change the query window. If I close everything, obviously it will not be there on the next run, but still you can draw it by writing some command as well. Okay, so this is dropped. If I go to the temporary tables and if I refresh, you cannot see the table 2 anymore in the list. Same for the global temporary table as well. You can alter. Okay, let me create a table once again. Suppose let me create a table 2 another time in the same way. So let me check if it is there or not. Yeah, it is there. So you can alter the table as well, like the original table. I can alter table hash table 2, and I can add something called email ID. Email varchar, suppose 100 will be enough, I guess. Though I'm not going to insert anything, but still you can do that. So if I run table 2, so you can see I can add column, I can change the data, I can update, even I can put some data into the email as well. So you can play with the data in the similar way you can do with the normal tables. So I can write something called email equals to, say, my email ID, something like that. I can put for all the details. Okay. So if I run now the table 2, so you can do anything with the temporary table. It looks odd. It starts with hash, but it behaves same like a normal table. So you can create some constraint as well. So constraint we have learned probably. If you do not know, still I can show you how to create a constraint. So I can write alter table 2. I can add some constraint, like let me give some name of the constraint, like C100, constraint 100, some name. I want to add some primary key concept on roll number. Sorry. So it can be done. Okay, sorry, it is saying, okay, table 2 already holds some indexes. So what can I do? Let me check what is there inside table 2. Okay, sorry, I have clicked some wrong button. So it already having some constraint. So what else we can do with the table 2? Suppose I want to put some constraint on okay, no, sorry, just let me check what I'm doing wrong. What was the message? Create unique statement terminated because a duplicated key was found. Okay, there was some duplicate, I saw that. Okay, let me check. Yeah, Basu's records and Prashant's records were what was there multiple times. So not Prashant, it is only Basu. So if I delete Basu's records, I think I'll be able to do that. So even I can show you I got a chance to show, like I can delete some data from the table, temporary table as well. So it is quite normal. It is not a tough thing. It is not tough like the other chapters. So you can simply do whatever you can. So now probably I will be able to create the constraint. Yeah, now I'll be able to create the constraint. You can see I have created a constraint and I have created a primary key. So if I can create a primary key, obviously I can create some indexes as well in the temporary table. So if you do not know what is index, I can describe that in some other classes as well. So for the time being, I can put some constraint on the temporary tables, but something that we cannot do even with the temporary table. So what were those things? So like we cannot create a view on the basis of temporary table. Even we cannot create a function as well. We haven't discussed over the function, but if I try to create a view, like create view, suppose I want to create a view name V100, say view 100 as select star from hash table 2. If I want to create that, obviously, logically, conceptually, if you just be calm and think, it should not happen. Why it should not happen? It is also showing view or functions are not allowed on temporary tables. Suppose it allows it to create that view on the temporary tables. Now, if you go to some other window and if you write select star from V100, what will happen? What will happen? What should it show? It is not a permanent table, so it cannot show any single thing. Even it will giving some error, though it exists. V100 exists. It is a correct view, but it cannot show anything because the definition is wrong. So how can you allow when you know that temporary table is not going to stay forever? So this is something that we cannot do. So we cannot create a view or even a function. I will discuss function in some other classes, but you cannot do that. Okay, so temporary table is restricted here. But another thing I want to mention, you can create some procedures on the temporary tables. Why procedures? So let me show you first. Suppose P100, one procedure I want to create. It will be simply like select star from hash table 2. Suppose, okay, sorry, it is table 2. So why it is allowed to create a procedure? So if I run that procedure from some other window, okay, if I run this procedure from here, I will try to share this code, but still it is not suggested to copy and paste these codes. Try it by yourself, then you will be able to understand what are the errors you are getting, what are the problems you are facing, then you will be able to learn. Okay, so I'm considering I cannot interact with you all people who is watching these classes over the YouTube. That's why I do not prefer, even I prefer always to talk, to interact. But still, if you face any doubt, any problem, you can tell me in the comment section, or you can send me a mail even. Okay, so better will be to mention that in the comment section so that everyone can see and we can have a open forum discussions there. So, but still you can see if I execute this P100, it is giving a good result. But if I want to do the same thing from the other window where TBL2 doesn't exist, obviously it will show TBL2 is invalid. So why they have allowed procedure to contain some temporary tables? Because procedures, if you know, or you can check, if you do not know, you can check the one class about procedures we have already covered. But if you do not know, I want to mention like the main significance of procedure is just to do some activities. So it is quite common during some activities, it is quite common to take some temporary tables to fulfill some of the requirements. So it is suggested, what we do generally using procedures, we create a temporary table inside the procedure, we work with that, and at the end we drop. It is quite normal phenomenon. So I will try to show those examples later. Those are not important in this scope because temporary tables concept is very easy. There is no meaning to make it hard. So, but yeah, this is being allowed. These temporary tables are allowed in the procedures. Okay, so to do some of the activities, to create some of the temporary tables, so that is allowed. That you need to remember. So that's all. So about this, so if you are feeling like, okay, you need it for some interview topics, some college examination, so I think you are done, you can leave at this moment. But still, if you are passionate enough to know the data, if you are really passionate enough, I will be really happy if you are still watching this class, because now I'm going to show you why these temporary tables are introduced. It will never be asked, you will never need to know. You can just simply think temporary tables are there, and we have already checked all the activities, all the properties of the temporary tables. But in this slide, I will explain why temporary tables are being used. Is there any other substitute that we can, is it really needed? Cannot we fulfill the requirements without using temporary tables? The answer is yes, we have some substitute. We can solve the same query using subquery. Okay, subquery concept is an alternative of temporary tables. Okay, let me take some examples like print the gender-wise toppers details. Okay, so I need to display gender-wise toppers for some newspaper. So it is just for one day that newspaper wants to print the cover line, wants to print the name of the students, gender-wise, the toppers among the country, and suppose gender-wise toppers in the country or just for one day. So there is no need to create some permanent tables. So how can I solve that? Again, I'm saying if you are not passionate enough, or if you are just only came here for just interview purpose or some college exam purpose, you can leave at this point, because I will be trying to play with some long queries. So you might be puzzled or confused, so better to leave at this point. But if you are still here, so I can explain. So it is the whole table. So if you know how to print the gender wise highest marks, so I'm assuming you know group by and inner join clauses. So I can write simply group by gender, and here I can write gender wise max marks. I'm naming it as highest. Okay, so if I run both of them, I can see female wise highest is 90, male wise highest is 82, and undefined someone is having 99 marks. So I need to find who got 90 from this table. So there is a long list. 90, not only 90, any male person can get 90. I'm not going to search that. It should be female. Same 82.50, not received by any unknown gender or female gender. It should be a male, 82.50. So I need to match both of them with marks and gender from this table. So what I can do here, if we do not want to use temporary tables, we can simply write this. We can take student table as S, inner join. This query, I can take it as a T. It is a table alias. If you forget that, I will request you to go through the class 2, the subquery class. So it is very simple. I will just try to match gender with gender, and as well as I want to match S dot marks with gender table G dot highest. What is the name? Highest. Okay, if I run, I will get everything. Okay, sorry, not G, it is T. Sorry. If I run, I will get the details. Here you can see. So bill is coming twice. That's why it came twice. If you ignore that, or even I can write simply distinct to ignore bill's record. So if I do that, you can see the 3 records are available. Okay, so now we can solve that using temporary tables as well. How? If I copy this query and if I just put this data inside some temp table. So I'm trying to show the temp table approach. First time I have already shown the subquery approach to solve the same requirement. I'm trying to make you understand what is the exact difference. So I can simply, we have already created some table in this way. So I can create a table called what can I get? Toppers table. Suppose if I create that, and now if I, apart from using that subquery here inside the bracket, I will be directly using that toppers table. That's all. Both mean same. If I run, okay, it is starting with hash, I forget, because it is almost temp tables are similar to the permanent table. So you can do the same. So I am getting the same records twice. So that you need to know. Okay, the same records you can get. Okay, but here it makes your life simple. But just for simplicity, they have created one new concept. My answer will be no. Just it is not because of the simplicity. So sometimes if I try to show some examples, the last example with some other table, suppose I have some data like this, student marks. I do not have the total marks. I have subject wise marks. So now if anyone asks like a question like need to find country wise highest total marks. I have the data as per the subject wise. I do not have anything as a total. So every time I need to make the total. Let me show you. So always I have to turn it into, suppose, let me think, role is name. Always I need to make the total because no one wants the data in the subject level. So what I can do, I can simply write role is name and country and comma sum of marks as total. So if I show you the subquery approach first, it will be lengthy. If I run this query, let me run this query first. So now this data will be shortened out and you can see a simpler version of the data. You can see 101, Ravi, Indra, Vishwa, and Paula. So 2 of them are from US, 2 of them are from India. Suppose it is just an arbitrary data. So now what can I do? If I want to find India's highest, so India's highest marks is Paula, it is 268, and USA's highest mark is 247. That is received, but that is the marks of Indra. So I want Indra and Paula's name to be displayed in the final result. How can I do? The same approach I have just done. The previous example was gender-wise. So what you need to do? You need to write something, select start from. Just let me think what I can do. I can simply do like group by country, and here I can write country-wise max marks. So I have these 2 queries now. Max marks I can write is at highest, something like that. Highest. Okay, so if I run this 2 query, it looks like the similar query I have used last time. Okay, sorry, is max of total. So if I run this query first, so India wise, total wise has 268, USA wise has 247. Now if I run both of them, so this is one table, consolidated table. Just remember, this is not a real table. Real table holds the data subject wise. So it is a consolidated table and it is highest table, similar like the last example. So what I can do select start from. I can consider this as T1 and inner join. So the query is becoming long. Okay, and I can write it here in this way. All of them are being considered as T2. And in the similar way, I can mark from T1 table, it is country and total, where it is matching with country with highest. So I can simply write on T1 dot country equals to T2 dot country, as well as and T1 dot marks, and not marks, it is total. I can see in the query window it is total, and T2 dot highest, something like that. If I run this long query, I'll be able to see the data. You can see Indra and Paula's name is visible now, but you can see here there is no meaning to do this same task twice. This task is just counting the total. This task is just counting the total. So I am using the same query multiple times because subquery doesn't hold the data anywhere. So now if I want to see the temporary table approach, so it will be easier. I'll be providing those query in the in my details, in the detail section of this class, but I will request you do not take a look into that. Pause the screen, pause the class. You can see the screen, just type it by yourself. You will face some problem. Just let me know. I will be helping you to solve those error messages. Just paste the screenshot in the comment box. I will take a look and I will say why those error messages are coming, but do not copy this code. But still, I will be sharing those codes with you if you face lots of trouble. So you need to understand why I'm using that. So now, if I rather do not, instead of using this query multiple times, if I store this data somewhere, suppose total marks table, The name of the table is suppose total marks. If I create that table, okay, it is created. Now, rather using this long table, if I use something like, okay, this is no more, I'm not going to use that table anymore because I have the data stored in the total marks table. So I will be just using the group by, and it is, let me store it somewhere into country marks, country wise highest marks table. Suppose if I execute, yep. Now I will simply join total marks table, that will be termed as T1 with inner join country marks, and it will be termed as T2, and everything else will be same. If I run this query now, you can see the same records are being displayed. Okay, so it makes your life easier. Do not, if you need to take a subquery in repeated ways, there is no meaning to take it multiple times. Here I am using the same query multiple times. You can see, if you check, these lines are common. This one and this one is common. So there is means no need to use the same query multiple times. Put that value somewhere inside the table, and those tables are not permanent even. So that will be destroyed whenever you just close the connection, or if you change the, if you close this query window, it will be disappeared, but you got your data. You can simply copy and paste and send the mail or paste it into Excel anywhere. You can do that. You just need the data from the millions of records. So that is why that is the real use of the temporary tables. I will just conclude my class just by showing you one last thing. If I run this query another time, it is saying error. It is saying something in the object is already created. What should we do then? So obviously it is trying to create the temporary tables another time, these two lines, those tables are already created. So if you share this query, it is not like any restriction. You cannot run it twice. You can run it many times. You just need to do a simple thing. We already know. We can just delete the table, total marks, and we can drop the table called country marks as well. Then it will run. So if I run the whole thing now it is, you can see the data, you can run it multiple times. Now again, the another problem, if I go to some other window and if I run this query, it will give an error because it is saying drop table, this table doesn't exist, obviously. So it is a stupid problem, I will say. So to solve this, I will just check first if object ID. We do this kind of thing inside procedures. Every time we check, we do not write this drop statement directly because it might exist, it might not exist. So just simply it will be good if you check. So if object ID thing is very simple. If you use this function object ID, it checks if a table exists or not. If it exists, it returns something. If it doesn't return anything, if it returns something, then I will drop this table. Okay. If it returns something, then I will drop. Same for this one as well. If it returns something, then I will drop. If it is not there, if it is not returning anything, any object ID is not returning, so that means the table doesn't exist. It is also applicable for the permanent tables as well. You can use the same. If the table exists, then you delete. If the table doesn't exist, then you can just simply just ignore. Okay. So that is the thing. So if statement, we have learned that in the class of SQL variables. You can take a look there. But now this query will always run. This query will always run. Even if you copy that in some other query window. So obviously for the first time, it will say object ID doesn't exist. So it is null. So this line will not be executed. Okay. Because I have given a condition like if it exists, then delete. Okay. So that's the thing. So it is also important to know. I have tried to cover almost everything. This class is very simple. We do not have anything else in this chapter. It is really very much easy, nothing logical, nothing complicated. You do not need to run your brain, and you can see those links. You can go through that. Even those links are being mentioned in our detail section of this class as well. So if I go to the our group, Binary World Computer Science, if you go to media, you can simply solve the exercise. Now we have a class, we have an album like SQL exercise basic. If you go to that, and you can check the chapter wise exercises. So you can go to chapter 15, and the class is temporary tables. You can just check that. And yeah, if you face any doubts, if you face any problem with any of the queries, just let me know. Okay, so that's all for the day. It is an easier topic, so I hope you will be able to get all the ideas. If not, just try to communicate with me. Bye for the day. Bye bye.